We've got some Dallas Mavericks free agency news and rumors on today's show, but quick plug, go ahead and subscribe if you are looking for a Mavs YouTube channel for the entire offseason. You have found the right spot, so join nearly 24,000 strong. Welcome into Mavericks Today. Matthew Peterson here with Jeffrey Cooperstein. Starting the show off by breaking down not a home run move, not a splash move, but Dwight Powell is back for another season in Dallas. And Jeff, it's not a big earth-shattering move, but I think it's a good move for the locker room.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Dwight Powell's the longest tenured Maverick. He's been here since the Rajon Rondo trade in December of 2014, and he's a beloved member of the Mavericks organization. So this is pretty much a no-brainer for the Mavericks. We knew that this was going to happen. It was just a matter of formality. He gets a little extra than the veteran minimum at $4 million a year over 3 years, and I imagine after that his career might be done. But I like this move for the Mavericks for this reason. They get Dereck Lively a mentor, which they desperately needed because it was Richaun Holmes and JaVale McGee who weren't going to mentor Lively, but Powell can show him, most importantly, how to play hard and how to fit in with the Mavericks culture. So I like it from that standpoint.
Yeah, Powell statistically the last couple of seasons has not looked like a starting center in the NBA, and that's more or less the plan. Once you got Lively with the number 12 overall pick in the draft, you were looking for a little bit of a change in the guard, and Powell is just one of the best players in the NBA to have in the locker room, and so for him to help mentor Lively, that is a great passing of the torch. Last 8 seasons with the Mavs, 7.8 points per game, a hair under 5 rebounds, field goal-wise shooting 60%, and averaging just under 20 minutes per game. Tim McMahon, by the way, adding this to the story, saying the Mavs expect Dwight Powell to be a part of their center platoon and serve as an excellent mentor for rookie lottery pick Dereck Lively II. So, like Cooperstein and I mentioned, there is clearly a changing of the guard here, where they don't see a long-term future with Powell, of course, as he's on the wrong side of 30, but more importantly, he just hasn't looked like the part of a starting center, and Lively will probably take on some bigger minutes towards the second half of the season and in the future as well.
Yeah, this is something that I kind of expected because now JaVale McGee is expendable now because you have Richaun Holmes, Dereck Lively, and Dwight Powell in addition to McGee, and you can't carry 4 centers into the season, so I expect the Mavs to make a move with McGee, whether that's a part of a bigger trade or just waiving him. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I think this signals the end of JaVale McGee's short tenure with the Mavs.
Yep, so a little bit of a nugget during free agency here. Dwight Powell back on a 3-year contract, $4 million a season, just a little bit more than the veteran minimum. But grade the signing for us: A, B, C, D, or F. I think this is a Udonis Haslem type signing where you are getting a player coach at this point in his career. So for me, it's a solid B+.
Yeah, I'll give it a B-, I guess, because I think he should have gotten the minimum deal, but as long as it doesn't eat into the mid-level exception, which I don't think it does, it's good enough.
Okay, now we have some more coverage to get to on today's show with day 2 of NBA free agency underway. So we're going to look and see at some other players still on the market and talk about whether or not they would be a good fit for Dallas and whether or not we think the Mavericks will end up getting pen to paper. And let's start with the former Tennessee Volunteer, Grant Williams. He is probably the best free agent out there right now. It's not an awesome pool of free agency, if we're being full transparency right now, but Grant Williams is one of the more notable names out there, and he is definitely on Dallas's radar. Last season for the Celtics, 8.1 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, decent shooter as well, 45% from the field, is also good from beyond the arc, 39.5 three-point percentage. Cooperstein, is this the number 1 guy for you if you're, the Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, I think he's the number 1 guy remaining on the board for the Mavs. The 2 things that they're desperately missing is a really good starting center and a forward that can play both offense and defense. They have that in Maxi Kleber, but they need another one, and I think Grant Williams is that guy. Will they get him for the mid-level exception? That remains to be seen. He's obviously still a restricted free agent with Boston, so they can match any deal, but I think that the Mavericks would like to bring Grant Williams in if they have the chance to.
And then one thing I'll add for Grant Williams, and I don't think this really shows up on paper, but last season for Dallas, when things really started to go south, it always felt like there was a lack of maybe effort sometimes on defense or on the rebounding department. Williams is not 7 feet tall, but the guy's scrappy.
He'll play hard.
7 feet tall.
He will play hard every single minute, and the Mavs need more of those guys for sure.
Absolutely. So he would be a very good fit on this roster. So do you think the Mavs will end up signing Grant Williams, or do you want the Mavs to sign Grant Williams? I know I'm putting an S for sign. I think Coop's putting an S for sign in the comment section as well. Let us know what your thoughts are. Now, when we look at the current roster as we are approaching the midway point of the first few days of free agency, you still have Josh Green, Luka, Rashawn Holmes, Kyrie Irving comes back, and that was a must-do for Dallas, right? Had to get Kyrie Irving back, or this thing would have been trending in the wrong direction for sure. And now you have a roster that's pretty much full. I mean, you have a couple of spots still available because you have McKinley Wright and Mike Miles and AJ Lawson on those two-way deals. So you still have a couple of roster spots available, and the Mavericks will have the full mid-level exception to use. So whether they use that on one or two players remains to be seen. But I would like them to target some wings with that mid-level exception. And according to Mark Stein, who is one of the best NBA insiders in the game, he says that's exactly what the Mavs are doing. And they need a guy that can both knock down the three and play some defense. So I took a look at who's still out there, and this is the list I came up with available targets outside of Grant Williams, of course, because we know the Mavs are looking at him. I like Kelly Oubre. Jae Crowder did sign with the Milwaukee Bucks, so he's off the table. Filming too.
Donte DiVincenzo, it sounds like he's going to the Knicks, but I think that he would be a great option for the Mavs. One guy I like is Matisse Thybulle. Now, it didn't work out with him in Philadelphia because he just couldn't knock down threes whatsoever. But when he was traded to Portland at the trade deadline, he actually was a decent three-point shooter, and he's a very good defender as well. So if the Mavericks took a flyer on Matisse Thybulle, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, Kelly Oubre, definitely a name that pops out there. If you guys have any wing recommendations, not the food, but the player, let us know in the comment section. I'm going to ride your coattails. I like Matisse Thybulle. Never really found a niche, if you will, when he was with the 76ers. And when Philadelphia was looking to go on a run, he was expendable. But I think he could catch on down in Dallas. Now, another player that was mentioned there is Terence Davis. And we have more on him here from Michael Scotto, who tweeted out, Terence Davis has received interest from the Boston Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, Dallas Mavericks, and Toronto Raptors, league sources told Hoops Hype. Davis has averaged 8.6 points over the last 3 seasons with the Sacramento Kings. Now, Davis was sort of buried in Sacramento because no one watched the Kings play unless your team was playing Sacramento. But that changed this past season, and you can see the improvement he has made, or, I mean, the overall body of work, let's say, for the last couple of seasons. The points per game has dipped, but also keep in mind Sacramento's offense has shifted a little bit, and he was not a volume scorer for them and kind of took on a different role, and I could see that changing in Dallas a little bit too. Now, name a wing the Mavs should sign. You sticking with Thybulle, or you got someone else in mind still, Cooperstein?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Thybulle. I like that. I think it would be on the cheap, and it would still give you flexibility to do other things as well. I wouldn't hate Terence Davis because it would be for a veteran minimum contract, so I think you could get both of those guys.
All right, so let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section here as we make our way through the latest Dallas Mavericks news and rumors throughout free agency. And we should mention the trade buzz because it is the NBA after all. So DeAndre Ayton has been rumored to be on the Mavs' radar as well. With the Mavericks signing Seth Curry, Tim Hardaway Jr. is now an expendable asset, and maybe the Ayton deal comes back on. Now, DeAndre Ayton last year in Phoenix, 18 points per game, 10 rebounds a game, shooting just under 60% from the floor, blocks per game. This is a number that I know it doesn't always jump out to fans, but when you're the first overall pick in the draft as a big, you should probably average at least 1 block a game. I mean, that is not asking for too much, but here is a trade package or a reported trade offer that we came across, and it has DeAndre Ayton coming over to Dallas in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr., Rashawn Holmes, and JaVale McGee. Rashawn Holmes kind of the name that jumps out there because he still could be a part of a larger trade package.
Yeah, and the sticking point for the Suns in this deal was actually JaVale McGee. They did not want to take McGee back after the Mavericks signed him away from the Suns last offseason because McGee was just awful this year, and they didn't want that contract of over $5 million with 2 more years left. So I'm curious if the Mavs would still do this deal without JaVale McGee in it. I think that's something that would be on the table, because I think they really would need DeAndre Ayton, and he would be a significant upgrade on what they currently have at center in Holmes.
Yeah, the quiet part in Dallas that no one wants to say out loud right now is they have got to be competitive with Luka Donic right now.
Have to be.
And getting DeAndre Ayton and Kyrie Irving on this roster, I'm not quite sure if they are better or as good as their names indicate at this point in their careers. As Kyrie's still one of the best point guards out there, but DeAndre Ayton, I think if he was not the first overall pick in the draft, we'd probably have a very different tune for him.
Yeah. They need to get better, and they need to get better quick. And I think if you're upgrading the talent level with Ayton, that's the quickest way to do it.
So here is the question we want to toss your direction. Would you trade for DeAndre Ayton without JaVale McGee in the deal, right? You're able to move on from McGee's horrible contract at this point, but DeAndre Ayton, I think your casual NBA fan would go, he has to be good, right? And I get what you're saying, Coop. You have to get good. You have to take a chance.
I'm typing my T.
If you're standing still right now for the Mavs, you're moving backwards. I just have hesitation of this maybe not living up to the namesake of Ayton, but you got to at least shoot your shot. So I'll go the T for trade as well.
Typing my T.
Typing your T. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing. That way we can get you guys more videos here, and we'll keep you in the loop all free agency long.